Hi, I'm Natalie. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a pumpkin sourdough bread. And this bread is really delicious. The pumpkin makes the crumb super soft and moist and really tender, and the color is really beautiful, perfect for fall. The baker's percentages for this loaf are 90% bread flour, 10% whole wheat flour, 65% hydration, 20% starter inoculation, and 30% pumpkin puree. Let's make some bread. So we're going to start off just by mixing all of our ingredients together. This loaf has a total of 300 grams of flour, which makes a relatively smaller loaf, so feel free to scale the recipe up or down depending on your needs. I've also made this pumpkin sourdough with a 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg added to it, and that added great flavor to the loaf, so if you're into spices, I highly recommend trying that. But for this recipe, we're just gonna keep it basic. We're not really looking for any major gluten development at this point. We're just trying to incorporate all the ingredients together until they're well combined. So once the dough has come together, you can just cover it up and leave it to rest for 40 minutes. So 40 minutes later, the dough still looks like a shaggy mess, but fear not. With some gentle kneading, the dough will start to naturally come together and sort of form itself into a ball, and that's when you know to stop kneading and let it rest for another 15 minutes. "15 minutes have passed and it's time for the first coil fold. With this dough, I only ended up doing 2 coil folds, but it really just depends on how strong your dough is. So just keep an eye on it, and once it starts to flatten out and looks like it could use some strength, give it another set of folds. The total bulk fermentation time for this dough ended up being 4.5 hours at around 70 degrees. To pre-shape, I gently loosen the dough from the sides of the bowl and give it a really gentle coil fold. Once I set it on the table, I just round it into a ball and let it rest for another 20 minutes. The bulk fermentation time varies a lot just depending on your environment and the temperature and a lot of different factors. So just keep an eye on your dough, and you don't necessarily need it to double in size. As long as you see some significant growth and the dough is airy and puffy and light, that's when you know that the bulk fermentation is finished and you can move into the pre-shape. I know rice flour is really popular, but I've never had any trouble just using whole wheat flour to dust my banneton, and I tend to use white bread flour to dust my hands and the dough when I'm shaping. This is just one of many different ways to shape your dough. Just use whichever method you're most comfortable with. After shaping, I let the dough proof on the counter at room temperature for about 2 hours, and then I move it into the fridge where I let it proof overnight for 8 hours. There are many different ways to final proof your dough. You could just let it proof completely at room temperature for about 3 hours, or you can place it directly in the fridge to proof anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. It really just depends on your schedule. The next day, it's finally time to score and bake your dough. I don't usually score the leaf pattern on the side, but fall is a good time to be a little bit extra. I preheat my oven to 500 degrees with a cast iron skillet and a roasting pan inside. When it's time to bake, I pour about a cup of room temperature water into the roasting pan to create steam and bake the dough for 15 minutes at 500 degrees Fahrenheit. I then remove the roasting pan and lower the oven temperature to 410 degrees Fahrenheit and bake the dough for another 15 minutes until it's nice, brown, and crusty. This pumpkin sourdough is so tasty, and the inside is soft and custardy and has this beautiful orange color. I really recommend you all give it a try. The music in this video was provided by Solo Sky Music. They have lots of great instrumental tracks, so I'll leave a link to their channel in the description if you want to check it out. And if you've liked this video so far, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more sourdough and non-sourdough baking content.